Well, hello, it's Sourdough Ken back to make his sourdough bread. I'm on the second stage of making bread, and that's to mix all the ingredients to make the loaf of bread. Last night I got my sourdough starter going, and it's nice and bubbly this morning. It's risen up nicely. It's nice and fluffy. One hint, if you're not sure whether your sourdough starter is ready for baking, you can try just taking a cup of water and placing a dollop of the sourdough starter in the water, and if it floats, it's ready. But I'm pretty sure this is ready. It's looking nice and fluffy. So now I'm going to add into this bowl, which I'm going to use to mix the bread. I've got it on my scale and zeroed out, and I need to add 160 grams of sourdough starter. So I'll dump out my starter, and need a little bit more. A little bit too much, so I'll just take a little bit out. A little bit more. And there we go. $160 grams of starter. Put this aside. And now I need to add to that 230 grams of water. I like to use filtered water without the chlorine in it. And zero out my scale, 230 grams, which is just around a cup. And a little bit too much in there. There we go. 230 grams of water into my bowl. Stir that around. And there we go. Now, I'm going to add the flour. And I like to use a mixture of whole wheat and white flour. Put this aside. So I'm going to try about 60% whole wheat and 40% white. So I'm going to add the white flour, all-purpose white flour, unbleached, and so 40%, so that's about 160 grams of white flour. So 160 grams, and we're there, close enough. It's 163 grams, but I'll just put the rest whole wheat flour in there to bring it up to 400 for my total weight of flour. So add smidgen more. There we go. 400 grams of flour. I'll stir that around a little bit, mix that up. And to this, I'm going to add 8 grams of salt. Just need a container to hold it. That'll be good enough. So zero that out, and 8 grams of salt. Still a little bit too much. There we go, 8 grams of salt. Dump that in with the flour. Give that a stir. And I don't need my scale anymore. There we go, my starter and water out of side so you can see what I'm doing. I stir up my flour to mix all the ingredients, and then I will pour that into the starter water mixture. Set that aside. And now I just stir it up. If you want, this next part you could do in actually do in a KitchenAid mixer or Bosch bread machine. But I just like to do it by hand because I like the feel of dough in my hands and my fingers. This is a fairly stiff dough. Some methods you will see them, it'll be quite wet, but my method, which is the tried and true method in my books, which comes from my son-in-law Trevor, who I got the starter from. So he's the one that gave me this recipe. So that's the one I use. And there's no right way to make sourdough bread if it turns out. If it doesn't turn out, you did something wrong. But there's different methods. So it's getting kind of mixed up here, so now it's time to get my hands into it. Make sure you wash your hands before you do that. But it'll get baked anyway, so if there's any germs in there, they'll get kicked when you bake because you heat it in a pretty hot oven. So I'll just mix that up. I got that pretty well, everything mixed in. So now I gotta knead this until it's nice and soft and fluffy. Well, not fluffy, but I'm not sure it's got the right texture. I just work this back and forth, kneading it on a clean countertop. Make sure there's no foreign objects on it, because you don't want that in your bread. Well, I kind of knead and work and do it this and do it this way. You can see the dough is starting to get nice and still a little sticky. And you knead away, knead away. This process will take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how well you work it. And I'm not sure about other factors, maybe the temperature of the room, maybe the way you hold your mouth, I don't know. So just work away at it, and work away at it. Good idea to just turn it over. You want to get everything well mixed and well kneaded. And as you can see, my loaf is getting, my dough is getting less sticky, and it's starting to form a nice texture. I can sort of feel it getting a little warmer, and I don't know, now there's a, how do you know when it's ready? How do you know you've kneaded enough? Well, I have a test that I do on the dough once I get kneading. It's called the window pane test, and I'll show you that in a few minutes as I continue to knead my dough. Get it. Yes, it's starting to feel warm, which is nice. That's a nice feeling of fresh dough in your hands, on your knuckles. Great feeling. Yes, way to go. This loaf is looking, this dough is looking nice. Now the window pane test, I'm not sure if this will pass it yet. But basically you take your dough, spread it around, stretch it out almost as if you're making pizza, but get it stretched out really thin, and eventually you will be able to basically see through it. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's the top, it's getting thin, and I can see the light coming through. And if you can do that, and it doesn't tear, which I think this is just about perfect. There, I don't know if you can see that. There's a clear spot there, but it's getting really nice and thin. It's not tearing. That means the strength, the gluten or whatever, it's built up its strength, and I think it's ready. Give it a few more kneads and form it into a nice ball. And then I just put it back in the bowl I was mixing it. Back in there. I'll cover this with saran wrap and leave it sit. It is now 7:30 in the morning. I go to work and come home at noon. So about 4.5 hours or so. I will go into the next phase. That's the exciting phase. So that's that for now, and Sourdough Ken signing off until next time.